Welcome back to another episode of the Todd Durkin Impact Show. And top of the morning to you. I hope you are super fired up on this glorious start to your week. Man, whatever day you're listening to this, I hope you're ready to rock and roll and you're ready just to, over the next 20, 30 minutes or so, that you can get your mind right. To get your mind right, get your body right, and get your soul right. Because that's what today is all about. That's what the Impact Show is all about. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for tuning into today's show. You know, we've had some amazing feedback over the last few weeks as 2024 has kicked off strong, and we've got some great things happening on many different fronts. And even last week's show, when I was over in Whitefish, Montana with my Impact X group, and I had a spit and fire, soul singing time from the mountains from Whitefish, Montana. Thank you all for that rapid fire episode where everyone's like, "Man, TD, more of the spit and fire." So I got you, I heard you, and we got some great things coming up here in the next few months. So stay tuned in. I hope you stay buckled up because your head's going to be pinned back, your ears are pinned back, you got your chin strap buckled up, and your head's on a swivel, baby. So hey, today I have a really special story for you. And this story goes deep and it's very impactful. And I think you're going to pull out a few nuggets out of it that may help you. So in just a moment, I'm going to share that story because it has to do with my very first book called The Impact Body Plan. And while I haven't shared this story very often, it's one that truly changed the trajectory of my life. And when I share the story, you're probably going to laugh. You're probably going to, well, you might be like me and cry. But I'm going to share that story in just a minute. A couple quick announcements, please, as you're listening. We've got some really exciting things coming up. So circle the calendar, February 20th. It's coming up here real soon, Tuesday, February 20th. I've got a free webinar coming up called Your Next Level. Your Next Level. And it's at 4 o'clock on the West Coast, 7 o'clock on the East Coast. And why? Because I am absolutely obsessed with helping you get to the next level in 2024. I shared at the God-Sized Dreams Planner kickoff about let's not wait 6 months or a year to get you to where you want to go. What if this was the last year of your life? Let's not wait. I am absolutely committed to helping you on every darn episode of this podcast, on webinars, at live retreats, whatever it takes. And I want to invite you to that live webinar on February 20th. All you have to do is sign up. And if you're like, "Todd, I got the kids practice at that time," don't worry. As long as you sign up in advance, I will send you the complete recording of that. So mark your calendar, free webinar, Your Next Level. What is your next level? And I want to challenge you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to pour into you in that webinar, Your Next Level. So just mark it Tuesday, February 20th, 4 o'clock on the West Coast, 7 o'clock on the East Coast. Man, it is going to be absolutely special. And I invite you and anyone that you know to be there as well. Also, speaking of books and speaking of the Impact Body Plan, I am working on a very quote secret project right now, my next book, and it's deep. And perhaps out of this will be my fifth book. It will be the deepest one of them all. Dare I say that? We had the Impact Body Plan first, which I'm going to share in a moment. The Wow book, Get Your Mind Right, and What's Next. And one of the things I'm searching for in this next book is if perhaps if you have read one, two, or all of the four previous books, if you have had what I'm calling a stranger than fiction story of how any one of these books perhaps impacted your career, your health, your finances, your relationships, your legacy, or your life in any way, I would love to know. Not only would I love to know, we're going to choose several of these stranger than fiction stories and share them in the upcoming book. Why? Because you always hear me say, live a life worth telling a story about. What is your story? What's your story? I want to know your story. If one of my previous books has impacted you in a stranger than fiction way, in any way, please, in a paragraph or two, could you please email that over to me in the next couple weeks? Matter of fact, the deadline is February 29th. Because let me tell you, I've got some serious momentum going on right now with the books. And I need to know this month, by February 29th, any stranger than fiction stories that you have from any of the previous books. If you have not read the books yet, well, pick them up, read the books. And if you have a stranger than fiction story, please share that with me and email me over at durkin@fitnessquest10.com, durkin@fitnessquest10.com. And then just let me know, hey, stranger than fiction story TD. And I'd love to feature you in the book. Last announcement before I get into this crazy story that you are going to be just like, what? Is speaking of Impact Body Plan, my digital app just came out on the 10-week body and mind transformation program for the Impact Body Plan. Some of you have been asking this for years, literally for years. TD, can we get the book on an app, please? Because I don't want to take the book into the gym all the time with me. My friends, for the first time ever, yes, the Impact Body Plan is now an app. You could check it out. Just go to todddurkin.com, todddurkin.com. The information is all over the place. And if you get it this week that this podcast episode drops, I am launching a 10-week course with me. It's only $59 if you get it by Feb 12th. Otherwise, get it, and I'm going to be sharing for the 10 weeks, giving away a ton of great prizes, but it's only $99 in general for a lifetime. My goodness, $99 for a 10-week program. Go to todddurkin.com, check out the Impact Body Plan digital app, and I'm really, really excited to put this app in the hands of people that can now take it to the gym, go in their home, go outside, and do the 10-week full body and mind transformation program. So that's it from a commercial standpoint. Thank you for listening in. And speaking of impact and writing, here's the story I want to share today. All of that has value for you, but I'm going to take a deep breath, and hopefully you can as well, because this story right here is one that changed the trajectory of my career and even my life. Because while I'm going to share some of this in the book that is coming up, and it is a secret project that when it drops, and the plan is for it to drop in June of 2024. So yes, I am writing my tail off as I speak right now. And the other day I was writing, I'm like, I have to share this story in advance because, man, it's too good to share, to wait to share with you. So check this out. When I wrote the Impact Body Plan, my first book, the year was 2010. The year is 2010. I'm writing a book. All the kids are very young. And I remember telling my wife, Melanie, that I'm going to go upstairs into my home office, and for 10 weeks, I'm going to be a bad husband, a bad father. I'm just going to write and write and write. I was training all my athletes, and I'm like, I promise you that when the 10 weeks is up, I'll come up for air, and I'll be a great dad and husband again. And pretty much that's what I did. I was training my athletes, and I was writing till midnight every night, all weekend long, because the publishers, Rodale and Men's Health, told me that I had to write it in 10 weeks because the 10 weeks would button up to the kickoff of the NFL season. And because Drew Brees had just won the Super Bowl and MVP the previous year, they wanted this book to come out just before the 2010 and 2011 season. So I do that, and for 10 weeks, I'm busting my tail night and day, and I got a team with me, and I'm writing and writing and writing and putting this together, and finally I finish. And when I finish, I get the opportunity to go back to New York City, and that's where Rodale was based out of, New York City, Midtown Manhattan, and I go into Rodale's office. The book is written. It's about 6 weeks away from being printed to go onto the store shelves in September of 2010. Well, I walk in to the president of Rodale Books. I still remember it like yesterday. Three-piece suit. I walk in this guy's office, And when I walk in the office, I was proud. I was excited. The Impact Body Plan was going to hit the store shelves and it was going to change lives worldwide. I had always wanted to write a book. I was so excited to write this book and to now soon share it with the world. And it was going to be a bestseller. It was going to change lives and create impact. I walk in this gentleman's office, and as I walk in, the Impact Body Plan, you know, the book that is yellow all over the front cover of it, the Impact Body Plan, build new muscle, flatten your belly, and get your mind right. That cover wasn't in his office. As a matter of fact, the picture of me was on his wall with a new title to the book. As a matter of fact, there must have been 50 copies all over, plastered over his four walls of his office, his corner office overlooking Manhattan. I walk in and I see this cover of my book, The Impact Body Plan, but it didn't say The Impact Body Plan. It had a different title to the book. And I said, "What is this?" He said, "Well, Todd, we have talked." I'm like, "Who's we?" He said, "The executive team at Rodale and Men's Health have talked, and we have decided that the Impact Body Plan book is not going to be called the Impact Body Plan." I said, "What are you talking about? I just gave up 10 weeks of my life, literally, as a father, as a husband, as a coach, as a trainer. What are you talking about on the Impact Body Plan?" He said, "Well, to be blunt, Todd, when we hear the word impact, we think car crash." I said, "Car crash? What are you talking about?" I said, "Have you read the book? It's all about changing the bodies, minds, and souls of people. The Impact Body Plan is changing lives. It's going to change lives." He said, "I'm sorry. If you want this book to go to print, it is not called the Impact Body Plan." He said, "It's called this." And he pointed to the walls where all over the wall was the name of the new book. And I stared in disbelief, thinking, how can this be? How can I have just sacrificed 10 weeks, and I'm talking every single day, 7 days a week for 10 weeks, and busted my tail to write my quote bestseller, and now in the 11th hour you're taking my book away, everything I poured into, and you're calling it something completely different? As a matter of fact, the cover of the book is a different color than what we had even talked about. He said, "Well, if you want the deal to go forward, it's not the Impact Body Plan, it's this." I said, "Well, I guess then it's not going to print." My friends, I walked out. I walked out of his office and I said, "I'm not going to print. I'm not going to print. It's called the Impact Body Plan." And I walked down the steps, not the elevator, the steps. I believe it was about 12 flights. And I almost had tears in my eyes thinking, what just happened? What the heck just happened? I walk into this office so proud, so excited that the Impact Body Plan is about to hit store shelves and take the world by storm. And the CEO of Rodale and Men's Health just tells me, "No, it's not the Impact Body Plan. It's called this." I'll never forget. I was standing on the corner, Midtown Manhattan, and I call at the time my literary agent and attorney, Chris Stort. I said, "Chris, you're not going to believe this. The Impact Body Plan is not going to print." He said, "What are you talking about, Todd?" I said, "Let me tell you the story." I tell him the story. He said, "Well, come home and let's talk." I sat on a bench in New York City contemplating life, like, man, like, how do you pour your life into something and have it pulled from you in a whim? Now, I got to remind you this. Have you ever poured your life into something for a few weeks or a few months or even a few years, And all of a sudden you feel like it's been pulled away from you. It's been pulled out of you. And like you no longer can do what you just poured your entire heart and soul into. That's how I felt. I felt like I was betrayed. I felt like, how could this happen to me? I hadn't yet made it, and this was going to put me on the map. And I just sat there in disbelief. Matter of fact, I remember sitting on the plane at Newark Airport. I was in the back of the plane, left side against the window. I still remember it, staring at the window in Newark, in my beloved home state of New Jersey, heading back to San Diego, thinking, I can't believe that I just gave up so many months of my life to put down the bestseller, and now it's not happening. Well, I flew home and I landed without a book. Well, my friends, why do I share this with you? Well, because thankfully, by the grace of God, 6 weeks later, the Impact Body Plan, the book I'm holding in my hand right now, if you can't see it, I'm holding this yellow book with this young cat on the cover. It says the Impact Body Plan on it. It says, build new muscle, flatten your belly, and get your mind right. If you're watching on YouTube, you see it. If you're just listening, you maybe have seen the book before in one of my posts or something like that. It says forward by 2010 Super Bowl MVP Drew Brees and 2006 NFL MVP LaDainian Tomlinson. And I'm so darn proud of this book. Why do I share this with you? There's a few reasons. I'm not going to tell you all of them. I'm going to tell you 3 of them, because maybe you have poured your life and soul into something before, and it didn't go as you planned. Because let me remind you, in 2010, when this book came out, there was no brand called Impact. There wasn't a brand. There wasn't an acronym what Impact stood for. You've heard me say 1,000 times: live inspired, master your craft, play at world class, take action, condition for greatness, be tenacious. Heck, if you listen to episodes 1 and 2 of this podcast, I start with that when I started the podcast. Now Impact is a brand. And now, heck, I'm always wearing my shirt, the Impact shirt. I'm wearing a gray hoodie right now called Impact that says Impact over it. It wasn't a brand then. It was a belief. It was a seedling. It was something that I had thought deep down somehow that, I don't know, there was this word Impact that really deeply resonated with my soul. I had to stick by my guns. So I have 3 points, 3 lessons that you can extract for your life today. Number 1, trust your gut at all costs. Trust your gut at all costs. I don't know what your gut is telling you for any decisions you're making right now, but your gut rarely leads you wrong. Let me repeat, in August of 2010, when I was in New York with this executive, again, corner office, downtown Manhattan, three-piece suit. I didn't have any of this. This wasn't an option of like me negotiating. And guess what? All of a sudden, I had to stick by my guns. So number 1, trust your gut at all costs. Whatever it takes. If you have a deep belief, even if you don't know your answer, even if you're not even sure, like, again, let me reiterate, maybe what you know of as Impact today and it's what I'm about, it wasn't that then. It wasn't anything. It wasn't even a book, and it was about to be taken. There was a gut that told me it's Impact. Number 2, don't cave in or give in on something that you really believe in. What are you believing in these days? What are your utmost core beliefs? And not just core values, but your core beliefs. You know, I believe that it is so easy today to get either betrayed, or you start believing something because you're listening to someone too much that may have a contrary opinion to you, and you just start to get weak in your belief. What I want to make sure is that you don't give in on your core beliefs, on whatever that is. And if you have some exec or someone that you work with or you work for that has a contrarian belief, I'm not saying that you should be rude or you got to quit something, but sometimes you got to believe in something so much that you're willing to walk away. And if you believe in it so much and your gut also tells you, your gut's telling you this, your belief is like, man, I'm telling you, I truly believe that this is the case. Don't cave in or give in just to give in. And lastly, sometimes it's years later that you hear a story from someone that read a book or heard a speech or you had a conversation with, and you find out the impact it had on them, right? Like you never know the conversations you're having today, how it could be impactful to someone 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, 14 years from now, whatever that is because it's a crazy story that almost prevented this book from ever hitting the shelves back in September of 2010. And it's hard to think about the what ifs. What if? What if the Impact Body Plan book never came out? What if thousands of people never read the book or never did the program? What if I had just let the publishers change the title of the book to what they wanted, even though what they said at the time didn't resonate with me at the time? Very interesting. And what if Impact wasn't the brand it is today? My heart and soul wouldn't be where it's at today. So for you, what if what you believe in so much, what if it never happened? What if the trust and the belief wasn't there to the point where you got to stick up for your belief? What if you didn't trust your belief so much that, well, someone else made that decision for you? Now, I'm not saying you can control everything that happens to you, but when you believe, when you truly believe in something so much to the point where you're willing to walk away, get in a flight and fly your tail home because you know somehow deep down that God is telling you somehow, some way, you got to stick to your guns because there's a plan. And now 14 years later, 14 years later, isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting that what I walked into that day, and I looked around, and I looked all over the room, and I said, what is this? He said, this is the title of your book. And I said, no, it's not. This isn't the title of my book. Impact Body Plan is the title of my book. Little did I know that the title that was all over that room was someday going to be the title of what will be the next book. Little did I know that that title, 40, 50 pictures all over the place, was a foreshadowing of what was to be, because I wasn't ready then in 2010 for what's about to come in, let's say, June of 2024. Hard to think about. Hard to think about, and sometimes choosing the road that you know you should go down, but you don't know if you can go down. And it's a great lesson that if and when you get a seed planted in your soul, are you going to follow through with that seed? Are you going to listen to that spirit that's telling you what to do? And sometimes you got to scratch, claw, even sometimes fight to the point of being able to walk away from a deal, being able to not let a dream die, that you got to walk away thinking, man, what if the dream dies? Heck, what if the dream ain't dying? What if the dream's just getting started? I love you guys. Thank you. Thank you. I get emotional because I remember how hard it was to walk away from this situation as a young man, thinking, man, I got everything at my fingertips. I got everything here. To walk away from somehow there was this inkling, a seed that had been planted. And again, Impact wasn't a brand. Impact wasn't an acronym. I didn't have anything called Impact. It was just a book that had been written that I was ready to launch, that they said, no, it's not called impact. I think car crash. And I said, I don't think car crash. I think change lives. I think legacy. I think, what are we going to do to impact the universe and where 10 million people's lives can be changed through a book or through a brand? My friend, stick to your guns when it comes to your gut and your intuition at all costs. Don't give in. Don't cave in just because someone else is telling you that it's got to be this. Stick to your belief. And sometimes you're going to hear a story years later, and like, hey, I've been listening, or I've been watching, or I attended that keynote 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or a year ago, and it impacted me so much that this is what I'm doing with my life. I thank God somehow that day I had the courage to walk away from something that I didn't want to walk away from because I never knew if it would come to fruition. Well, Impact Body Plan now, 14 years later, is out. Heck, it's not only out on a book, it's out on an app as well. But the moral of the story is this: trust, belief, and an impact book that almost never happened. I love you. God bless you. And until next time, remember, you got to train hard. You must eat right. And please stay inspired so that you can go create impact. All right, I'm back. I had to take a couple moments there to breathe and to reflect and be so grateful. I got a little emotional there at the end because, man, when you think back to some big decisions in your life, you think back to those decisions of how they impacted you. That was one of the most fork in the road moments I've ever dealt with. And I'm so grateful that, I happened to choose the right path, the right fork in the road. Remember, the Impact Body Plan app is now out. If you would like to get the digital app, please hop over to my website, todddurkin.com, and go get the Impact Body Plan 10-week body, mind, and soul transformation program. I promise you, 14 years later, it'll still impact your life. And don't forget, we got that webinar coming up on February 20th. If you're listening to this prior to February 20th, mark your calendars, 4 o'clock West Coast, 7 o'clock East Coast. We got your next level. And I'm going to challenge you to step it up even further here in 2024 so that you can be great here in 2024. That's it, my friends. Have an incredible day. Go out there, make a difference. And remember, every darn conversation matters today. Every conversation with a teacher, with a coach, with a colleague, a coworker, with someone at the grocery store, someone that you're on a flight with. Heck, even if you're in a big meeting in a corner office with windows looking down in New York City, every darn conversation matters. I love you. Thank you for sharing this podcast. As always, it is helping us raise up the impact all over the globe, literally. It's helping us rise up to become one of the top podcasts out there. So as we go create more impact, it's people like you who are creating impact in your communities, cities, states, countries, provinces, all over the world. So I say thank you from the bottom of my heart. God bless you, and go create some great impact today.